All right, we've all heard the story, right? Social media giants are just too big to fail. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if their biggest strength is actually a secret weakness? Well, that's what we're going to dig into. So let me ask you, are these platforms really invincible? For a long time, pretty much everyone would have said yes. But some really interesting new research is starting to flip that whole idea on its head. So let's get into it. Okay, so the secret sauce behind their power has always been this thing called the network effect. And it's actually pretty simple. Just imagine the very first telephone. Kind of useless, right? But then, every time someone new got a phone, the entire network got more valuable for everyone. Social media seemed to follow the exact same rule. More users equals more value. The thinking was it built this massive fortress that no competitor could ever dream of breaking into. Or so we thought. But this is where things get really, really interesting. A new paper just came out of Harvard Business School, and it's basically calling out this whole winner-take-all idea. They're making the case that, hey, not all networks are created equal. And that's exactly where we start to see the cracks forming in the walls.
All right, so let's break down the two big reasons why these social media giants might not be the untouchable fortresses we thought they were.
So that first big crack, it comes from looking past just the huge number of users. It turns out it's not just about size. It's about how all those users are connected to each other. The structure of the network. That's what really truly matters.
And this is such a great way to visualize it. Think about Airbnb for a second. It's this massive, global network where pretty much any host can connect with any guest anywhere. That's a super strong, interconnected web. Now compare that to Uber. Uber is more like a bunch of separate little networks, right? A network of drivers and riders in New York is totally separate from the one in London. And here's the real kicker. That Harvard paper argues that social media looks a lot more like Uber than it does like Airbnb.
And why is that? It's all because of something called network clustering. I mean, let's be real for a sec. You're not actually connected to all 3 billion people on Facebook, are you? Of course not. You've got your own little bubble. Your close friends, your family, your coworkers, maybe that weird group chat about baking. That is your cluster. And that's where almost all the value of the platform comes from for you.
And see, this right here shows you the huge strategic weakness. A new company doesn't have to try and take on all 3 billion users at once. No way. They just have to target one of those clusters. Think about it. That's exactly what TikTok did by going after teens. It's what Parler did by focusing on a specific political group. You just find a little crack, a specific group, and you start pulling them away.
Okay, so the second major vulnerability is something pretty much all of us do, probably without even thinking about it. It's called multi-homing. Now, that sounds fancy, but it just means you use more than one social media app. Go ahead, pull out your phone right now. Seriously, how many do you have? I'm willing to bet it's not just one.
And because we're all hopping between apps, it creates this relentless battle for our attention, right? Switching from Instagram to TikTok costs you nothing. It's free, it's instant. So these big platforms, they have to constantly scramble to keep us engaged, to keep us coming back. It's this never-ending race of new features, copying trends, trying to outdo each other. That doesn't really sound like an invincible monopoly, does it?
Okay, so we've seen the cracks in the old system, but what if there was a totally different way to build a social network from the ground up? This is where the story takes a really exciting turn. Let's talk about Web 3. And this really lays out the two worlds perfectly. On one side, you've got Web 2, the social media we use every day. It's all about centralized control, companies owning our data, and an ad-based model. But then you look at the Web 3 alternative, and it's the total opposite. Decentralized, you own your data, and the whole economic model is different.
So how does all this magic actually work? Well, imagine a social network that doesn't live on a handful of servers owned by one giant corporation. Instead, it's spread out across thousands of computers all around the globe. There's no single off switch. No one can just shut it down. And the most important part, you hold the cryptographic keys to your own identity and data, not the company. It's like you have your very own digital passport for the internet.
Now, of course, this new vision sounds amazing, but it's not a utopia, at least not yet. We've got to be realistic and look at both sides of the coin here. The incredible promises and the very, very real problems that this new tech is facing. So on the pro side, the promises are huge, right? Better privacy because you control your data, resistance to censorship since there's no central boss, and real data ownership, meaning you can even monetize your own content. But, and this is a big but, the challenges are just as significant. Getting users to adopt these things is tough. They can be really complicated to use, often needing some crypto know-how.
And frankly, they often lack the slick features and scalability of the platforms we've been using for years.
And maybe the single biggest hurdle for any new network is hitting what experts call conversational liquidity. It's a great term. Think about it like this. It's the difference between walking into an empty room and walking into a buzzing party. You need to get to that point where there's always enough activity, enough conversations happening to make people want to stay and join in. Hitting that critical mass, that's the holy grail.
So, when you put it all together, what does this actually mean for the future of your feed? Well, one thing's for sure. The ground is absolutely shifting under the feet of the giants.
And here's the big takeaway. If you remember one thing, the entire game is changing. It's shifting away from just being about who can get the most users, and it's becoming a totally new battle. A battle over who can give you the most control, the best privacy, and true ownership of your own digital life.
So I'll leave you with this question. What kind of social network do you actually want for the future? The walled gardens we have now, or the open platforms we could build? It's something we're all going to have to think about. Thanks for joining me.